This video is going to cover things that you should know before you start the private label process. Welcome back to our channel. I'm Liz. We're the Freeway Flippers. We are full-time Amazon sellers. If you're here watching this video, that means that you are interested in selling private label products on Amazon. Whether you are a brand new seller or you do other things such as retail, online arbitrage, this video will hopefully be very helpful for you. All right, so one of the first things that I think is so very important is to really understand how Amazon works. How does the process work of holding your inventory, shipping it out yourself via FBM, which is fulfillment by merchant, or FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon, where you're gonna send all of your inventory to an Amazon warehouse where they're gonna pick, pack, and ship it when that item sells. So one of the things that they do have in Seller Central, and there's lots of YouTube videos, how does Amazon work? And I'm gonna leave a link down below in the description. I just did a video teaching you how Amazon FBA works in under 4 minutes. So it won't take a lot of your time, and it's just very valuable to have an insight on how the process of selling on Amazon works. Before you start your private label research, you want to have an Amazon seller account. There are 2 different ones that I'm going to talk about. However, now, we opened up our Amazon seller account years ago, but now it's taking a little bit longer to open one up. So therefore, that's going to be something that you're going to want to make sure that you do right away, so you can make sure that that's something that you can actually do, which is open up an account. Amazon's been a lot more pickier with who they're letting sell on their platform. You're going to have to make sure that you are giving them the correct information, and I've heard that they are even doing things like calling you or doing an Amazon interview before they approve your seller account. So that's going to be one of the things that you do before you even start private label research. Now, there are 2 types of seller accounts that you can open. So if you're a brand new seller, you don't plan on doing anything but private label products, I would recommend just opening up an individual seller account. The reason is there's no monthly fee and you only get charged when an item sells. The private label process takes a long time from product research to launching your product. So therefore, you don't want to be paying a monthly fee if you aren't going to be selling anything for maybe 5 to 8 months. So I would not recommend getting a professional seller account unless you are going to mix in retail, online arbitrage, wholesale, along with your private label products. The professional seller account is $39.99 a month. So think about it, if it does take you between 5 and 8 months to find a private label product and start selling it, that's $40 every single month that they're going to charge you. So just opening up an individual seller account if you're only planning on doing private label products. When you get approved to have an Amazon seller account and you are ready to start selling on it, whether it's private label, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, you might be gated or restricted in certain categories on Amazon. So before you do your product research, you need to know that you're not going to be able to sell every single thing on Amazon. You might have to get permission to sell a particular product. So once you start your private label research, you find maybe a toy that you want to private label, you're going to have to get ungated in the toy category. So that is one thing to be aware of and just keep on your mind before you start the private label product research, is that you are not always going to be able to sell in every category or sell every single brand on Amazon. They restrict new sellers. It's nothing new. You just have to go through the process of getting ungated. Before you start private label research, one really important thing to know is how important sales rank is and reviews on Amazon. And when you're selling private label products, your goal is to get the product to page 1, because nobody scrolls past page 1. As soon as they find what they're looking for, they're going to click on it. You might be on page 2. But one thing to consider and think about is if you're doing private label research and you find a product, maybe it's in the toy category and it has thousands of reviews, that to me would mean that that product is a very well-seasoned product and it has been on Amazon for a really, really long time. I'm not saying to not choose that product, but just know that when you see something with lower reviews, it probably means that that's a new product on the Amazon platform, and the ones with really high reviews those are the ones that have been on there a while. And sales rank is important to know because you want to make sure that you are ranking high in your category or subcategory. So let's take the toy for example. Maybe that one has a really, really low rank, which means in that subcategory, that is a product that sells a lot of. Now, one thing to know is Amazon does have fees. So I mentioned with the seller account, there is a monthly fee for the professional seller account of $39.99 a month. And then if your item sells, Amazon charges you a 15% referral fee and a 15% FBA fee if you use their fulfillment by Amazon and have it shipped into their warehouse. The FBA calculator is very important to understand. I'll leave a link down below to it. You go to it, you can put in a similar product, and then you can use whatever parameters you want to, however much it's going to cost you, or you think it's going to cost you to make that product, have it shipped over here, and then you can see how much you would profit if you did FBM and if you did FBA. So the FBA calculator is really important because when you're finding items, the worst thing to do is find an item that is going to have high fees. And that happened to us once. I ended up finding a product, made it bigger than the other ones that were on there. So when I used the FBA calculator to see what the fees were going to be, mine ended up being the next size up and ended up costing me a lot more in fees, and that item was one that we just got rid of because it wasn't profiting. So the FBA calculator is something you're going to want to keep in handy when you're doing the private label product research. Now, when you're looking at products on Amazon, you might find a toy where it looks like there are a few of them. Don't always assume that that's a product that you can then private label. Make sure you're checking trademarks for certain things. Make sure you're checking patent designs, because you want to make sure that you definitely are able to sell a product on Amazon. So always keep in mind that you might have to do a trademark search or you might have to do a patent search. And that's just to protect you, because when you're contacting suppliers, it's not their job to worry about if they're those legalities on a certain product. They're there to sell you as many as they can, and that's how they're going to make their money. So just keep in mind that not everything you see on Amazon is something that you should be selling. You just have to do your due diligence and make sure that you're doing your research when you're doing private label research. Now, when you're looking for products, make sure you understand what's a good product and what's a bad product. And that's something that is very important, because there are products that are really good to sell on Amazon and there are products that are not so good to sell on Amazon. Like right now, an example would be, I live in Arizona. Cannabis is legal, but that doesn't mean that I can sell everything that's cannabis related on Amazon. Watch some of the videos where people talk about their successes, their failures. You'll get an idea of what's a good product and what's a bad product. A good product to me would be something that's lightweight, the cost of good is low, a product that you know that if you brought it to market, you have a really good chance of it being successful. And sometimes what you need to do if you find products when you're doing your research, order some of the competitors. We ordered a competitor's product once when we were doing product research. I had found meat thawing trays. It looked really good. You know, they didn't have a lot of them listed on Amazon, low reviews. They were selling for $25 to $30 at the time, and it just looked like a good product that we could, enter the market. So I bought one of them, and I'm so glad I did, because when I tried it, it didn't work. So I wanted to stay away from a product like that, because how do I guarantee that it's going to work for everyone? It definitely did not work for chicken, it worked for beef, and maybe that's something that you would put in your listing. But just because of that, we didn't like the product, because to us, I wouldn't want to buy it and it not work like I thought it was going to work. And also, we couldn't differentiate it. We couldn't make it different and stand out from what else was out there already on Amazon. There are a lot of Amazon terms out there, and that would be really good to understand before doing your research, such as FBA, FBM, the sales rank, using a Keep chart. That's really important because it'll show you a little bit more data as to how often a particular item sells. MOQ, minimum order quantity, when you're talking to your supplier. Know that PPC stands for pay per click. ACOS, average cost of advertising. And there are a lot of acronyms and abbreviations that people use in the Amazon space, and it would just be really good to Google it. I think Jungle Scout has a really good glossary that you can look at and kind of get familiar with the different terms, just in case you're watching or reading something and you don't understand what they're talking about. Know that there are lots of software options out there, and for the future videos, we're going to always be talking about Jungle Scout, which is the software we use to scan the Amazon database and catalog and see what products we want to then private label. And that's just been what we've used since 2016. We did use Viral Launch for a little bit, We actually met the founder, one of the founders of Viral Launch, Casey Goss, when we went to an Amazon meetup. However, he left the company. He's now at Thrasio, which is a pretty cool company. They actually acquire online businesses. So we use that for just a little bit, but Jungle Scout is definitely our favorite software to use. There's also Helium 10, Zonbase. I mean, there's lots of software out there. And there's also different extensions that you're gonna want, such as like the AMZ keyword extension. That one will show you what people are searching before and after the keywords that you put in the search bar. So there's just lots of things that you can then use to help you make an even more better decision on a private label product. There's also one thing people ask when they're interested in private label is, do I need a course? And I'm gonna say it definitely helped us. We paid for a $997 course that has turned into over $1 million in sales. So for us, it did help, but you don't necessarily need a course. One thing I think we wish we would have understand more was how Amazon does their storage limits. So right now it's almost Q4, which means they're gonna start limiting how many items we can ship into the warehouse. Right now we've seen our restock levels go down, which means we can only send in however many items or units they allow us to send in. So that's something to keep in mind. Always research, look in forums, join a Facebook group, try to figure out when they're gonna do their storage limits, because if you're gonna do a private label product and you order 1,000 units from a supplier and you can only ship in 300, well, you're gonna have to think of a backup plan. You're either gonna have to store it at your house like we do, get a storage unit, use a third-party logistics company that can store it for you. Those are just things that happen when selling on Amazon. Make sure you have a budget, an idea of how much you can afford to spend on private label products. The next videos we're going to be doing are going to be talking about how much do you really need for private label. And so it's going to be an interesting video. Make sure you are following the playlist that we have started for private label videos, but just know that you need to put a budget together, because private label has so many more expenses than any other thing, a lot more than online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale. I mean, you're going to need to have a lot of money put aside, just not for product, but for other things like photography, package design, things like that. And the last thing to know before you start your private label research is that private label research takes time. It takes a lot of time to look for a product, track the product, contact a supplier, order a sample, get the order in. I mean, it's probably, for me, it was the most lengthy process. It took us a good 3 to 6 months of private label research. Make sure you have those expectations that you're not going to find a product right away. Private label research, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You want to take your time. You want to do it the right way. The worst thing is to end up with a product that you've just spent $1,000 to $3,000 on, and that product made you no money. And it could happen. Those are just that's reality with private label. I mean, you do your due diligence, but a lot of times you never know what's going to happen. So you have to make sure that you are doing the best job up front with the research, so then that way you can be successful in the end. All right, if there's any other questions that you have about private label and just the things that you should consider before you actually start the research, leave them in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Don't miss any more videos that we're doing. And until next video, I'll catch you on the flip.